son a bhór chúis de dràibhearin an spórs mótar, háisich an dríoch gacha cúrs a cartún nuair a bhead glé óg. Chenne sin a chúise ar san ALBA Jodie Sloss.
So I've got quite a unique story in motorsports for sure, and it's I would like to say it's a long one, but it's really not. It happened within a year of me going from not knowing I was ever going to be in a race car to being in a race car. So there was one day I was literally sat in my house in Scotland and I seen an advert for a prize to win a full season in the GT Cup driving a McLaren 570S, and it was from a company called Formula Women. And it was such an amazing opportunity, and I was like, well, might as well go to the assessment day and see what I can do. And I've always been into cars, always had my old BMWs, always been kind of like a car girl in some forms. But I think motorsports was always off my radar in the fact of there wasn't many female representation in it. There wasn't many role models, apart from, of course, is the one we know as Susie Wolff. So I went to my assessment day. I was tested on track, mentally, media, karting, everything you can think of within the car and with outside the car as well. And in December I was finalised as one of the finalists for the competition.
Ba Jodie dal suas yn ei cwestiwn y dràibhearin bor yn óga siad, a ys chaburin I cretchen nur hwyn I mach gyndur I ache hi skippe.
So in the morning of Sweden, when we done the final shootouts, we actually were on an ice lake in Sweden having a shootout, which was really cool. And that was where my raw talent could actually be shown with my car control, my throttle feel, everything really. So it was that morning in Sweden that he literally looked at me and he was like, Jodie, you're going to be one of the 4 main drivers of the GT Cup team. And I was just like, what? I was like, really? And honestly, I just burst into tears, and honestly, that is when my life changed.
Ha Jodie a cretchen gyfel na buigin cearsteiche fi sarfachol an yn spórs mótar. A chai gadjachwch yn feimig union dorfi ianw na dvehe, gus de vrwyd ar a lentin.
So there's a lot of sacrifices in racing for sure, and one thing was for me when I won the competition and I was the least experienced, and this is something literally coming into it with no prior experience, no karting, nothing. And I just had so much belief in myself, and I think I just loved it. I felt so at home in that race car, and I could just see my ambitions, and I wanted to go all in. I was like, with an opportunity like this, I want to go all in, I want to be dedicated. So I actually gave up my self-employed business that was semi-successful to be full-time racing driver and just go for my ambition to be at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. I don't know, it's just me as a person. I'm very calm, I've got a good head on my shoulders, and every single situation, if I'm being pressured to literally sit in a McLaren, go on a grid with pro drivers and be like, right, race some. This is your first race, Jodie, in a McLaren 570S. It's something that I dealt with very well, and I don't know if that's just because it's so natural to me and that is just my purpose and that's where I should be. But yeah, I agree that I went through that competition very level-headed, and I just was so chilled out. I was so calm, and I think sometimes the best drivers in the world are the ones that are really calm.
Ha aan barrachd worden niet eigen aan een sportsmotor. Ayes ha Jodie sonne wie na paarst een sin. Gus een nagenjelach je lochreisje vrosnachug.
I think that's one thing I take with my career is I want to be a role model for people just like me a year ago, looking into motorsports. And I think something that I found so mind-blowing was 1.5% of all racing licenses were only female, and that's pretty much all over the world. It's still such a sport that diversity is creeping into it, and I hope that my story inspires a lot of young girls and older girls to just give it a go, see if they have the raw talent, because I would have never ever knew I could have done this or would have been so good at racing or in a car unless I took that step to actually try it. Right now there is stuff that's being done. There's some really good organisations that are coming just out of the ground now to help women, and that's such a good thing to see. And even like Formula Women, that kind of concept, it's just nice for women with no experience, maybe no money behind them as well, to be brought up to the top and to just be given that opportunity, just like I did, to sit in a race car, show my natural talent, my natural ability, and grow from that. So yeah, I do believe there should be more eyes on us, and I believe we should be given the opportunities, but it's happening, the change is happening for sure.
Ha Jodie vi gopur collery parliament na ALBA, gus Jeffer Johin bornichis klanian a horsin sas and grievachus sports motor.
Yeah, so they've been really supportive, and I think as well with the role model sense, they do quite a lot for women in motorsports or women in any sport really, is the Scottish talent, and that's what we thrive for in this country. So they invited me to come along to have a meeting with Marie Todd, the sports minister, and we just really talked about my journey and really introduced that and see things that we can maybe do, or maybe more I can get involved with as well, in the same aspect of being a role model to younger people, that this is an option. So yeah, definitely got Scottish support. I love it. I honestly do love it, because I get girls all the time that message me saying, how did you start in racing? I didn't know this was an option. You've literally come from a little town, Oban, in Scotland, in the Highlands of Scotland, and you're now potentially racing in Europe next year. And people can't get their heads around it sometimes, but honestly, I'm proud of what I'm doing, and I want to bring the legacy and the message with me. And it's almost like this generation already is starting to change. You're starting to see difference. I mean, I have little girls that come up to me and say they want to be engineers and work with race cars, and that's when you're starting to see, okay, they're being brought up, they're being born into this generation where it's okay that that option is there for them.
Ham focus in this son Jodie Sloss an blad réis. A is a lorach slia a verisi faravelliar son a goal and an sports motor.
So my main goals, I think, right now is obviously getting to the next step with everything, getting commercial backing as well, and hopefully going to Europe this season is the main thing, and meeting new teams, meeting new connections, widening my opportunities and getting my name out there, not only for me but for Scotland as well. But my overall goal is always going to be the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and that's something that's always been on my brain. That's the race I want to race in, and hopefully the next 3-4 years time I'll get that opportunity to be there.